I don't have the water bottle next to me to kind of casually lean in. Oh my word. The lengths that you'll go to try and get people to tune in at the start of a stream. Um, who am I speaking to?
Dan, you're not going to comment about my new look?
Well, I don't know who I'm speaking to. There's someone's using Phil's account to access this live stream, but I've got no idea who this person actually is. It's very
I think you've
special.
probably given me away because I'm not actually a natural blonde.
No,
As you know.
I was going to say, it was your birthday this week, Phil.
It
Many
was.
happy
It was my
returns.
birthday. Thank you very much. Yes, not quite a landmark, but getting there towards the big one. I share my birthday with LinkedIn royalty as well. Which you know actually, because you tagged me.
Yeah.
Rob Mayhew, the delightful Rob Mayhew, who puts out some amazing videos, including sketches mostly, including one about his own birthday this week. So he got more birthday wishes than I did.
Shameless. What you didn't post on LinkedIn about your birthday, right?
I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Resisted the urge.
I did it on Instagram, so there you go. But do you share any birthdays with any LinkedIn royalty yourself?
Well, LinkedIn royalty. Yes, I do. I share my birthday with John Esperian. Yeah, and actually, John.
What star sign's that then?
Taurus.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
a pair of bulls.
Yes, a pair of bulls, a load of bull, whichever way you want to take that one. We are Taurians, and actually, John, to be fair, and I would expect no less than this attention to detail from John. Last year, I actually took off all of the notifications for my birthday across social media. I thought,
okay.
I don't want this influx of many happy returns. And John contacted me anyway because he'd made a note and had remembered that we shared a birthday.
Well, that's the kind of attention to detail that you get from John Esperian. So yeah, top marks.
Precisely.
Cool.
John,
you've got to pull that one up, Dan.
He's here. John's here. You're on the countdown. Yes, John.
You have to get up early to catch John out, Dan. I'm sorry.
I wasn't expecting that, John. But yes, I've got a memory like a sieve, John. So I'm going to say happy birthday to you now, just in case I forget.
You should remember John's birthday. It's the same as yours. I mean, come on.
I should. You're right. I should remember John's birthday, but I forget that it's my own birthday sometimes. And this year we've got a bank holiday because of the coronation on our birthdays as well. So there will be other things distracting me. I have absolutely no doubt. But did you have a nice birthday?
Yeah, it was all good, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I think we should probably start on the show though. What are we going to chat about this week?
The people want to know about your birthday. You spotted a new feature, and we should point out that I am a self-confessed late adopter to these things.
Yeah.
This is not intended to be the weekly features update from LinkedIn but you spotted something around messaging that you thought was quite interesting to share.
Yeah, I did actually. I think this one's quite useful if you either work in sales or account management, run your own business. Are you using LinkedIn to drive business, not necessarily just for sort of communication purposes? So it's just a small one, but I think it's a kind of important point behind it. If you could switch on the screen share, I'll quickly show it to you if you like.
Okay. So there you go.
Okay, I need to do that. Right. So here's a look at my stream. I'm going to avoid pressing go live and messing it up like I did last time. So if you have a look here, just to give you an example, top post of my stream is from Amy Key. Now imagine that Amy might be somebody that we were trying to sell to, Dan, and you and I were working on a sales team together. We could use this as an opportunity to send you a message about it, to give you a prompt to get in touch with Amy. So what I can do here now, which you couldn't do before, is I can tick the people that I want to see this particular message. And I'm going to send it to my business partner, Joe, as well. And just the two of you. And then I can write you a message and say, here's the post about Amy we spoke about. Let's call her. Right. And I can either send that separately or I can send it to you together. And that way you get the message in your inbox separately. Now, the reason why, if you can turn that off now, the reason why I think that this is sort of quite an interesting thought is that if you want to do more work off the platform, i.e. not publicly putting out content, you want to send things to people directly, this is a really powerful way of doing it. And now that you can actually add sort of extra messages, or send them separately or send them in groups, create groups, I think it just makes things easier to do things privately in what's sort of sometimes called the dark social space. So I think that's an important thing to do if you're on LinkedIn. When you send things directly to people, it often has a more sort of powerful impact than necessarily put it out in the public domain. And you can do other things like that too. So something you and I have experimented with is sending videos to people or voice notes to people. Also great ways of sort of doing things that get right into the inbox that's personalized to them rather than, just publishing content and hoping. So small feature, but I think it could be quite a powerful one.
Yeah. And I agree. I think the more you can personalize that stuff, the better. And that whole kind of world of, like you say, dark social, I think is something that is underestimated, undervalued, because it's much harder to measure. The impact of dark social. You don't know necessarily when you're sending those links off, when it's being read, if it's being read, what people are doing, are they sharing it then? Do they share it with colleagues on an email? You don't know until you end up having a conversation with somebody and they say, oh no, our friends, our colleagues, shared that on email after you'd sent it to them, and that's what got you into this opportunity in the first place. So okay. So that's a nice little spot. I think as we are at the end of this quarter now, it is the 31st after all, end of the first quarter of 2023. It probably makes sense to kind of have a look back at some of the things that have been added to LinkedIn, some of the things that you have used, perhaps in the audience, if there are features, for example, that have been released on LinkedIn over the last few months that you've started to feel the benefit of, let us know, because there's been quite a lot that's happened. And I think the elephant in the room, if you like, for this is the thing that many people are now rolling their eyes at when they see more posts about it appearing in their feed, and that is artificial intelligence. LinkedIn has actually done quite a bit of work in this space that has come into play over the last few months. ChatGPT-4 is everywhere at the moment, obviously, but the things that kind of stood out to me that might be useful for our audience are things like the collaborative articles that we've touched on previously. Now, I don't know about you, Phil, but I've contributed to a couple of those. I've started to see people reacting to the contributions that I've made, and that's definitely putting my name onto the radar of people that I wouldn't normally have been associated with. Nobody in my network or that is following me has reacted to it. People that I don't know at all have reacted to it. So I think that's a really positive indication of how those things are going.
Yeah,
the flip side of that, though,
I'm not sure about. I mean, I did a couple of pieces on the collaborative articles, and at the time I thought it could get messy, and I think it's already getting messy. In that there are an awful lot of these collaborative articles being created. A lot of the formats are actually quite similar, so I don't think there's actually a great deal of artificial intelligence that's going into creating them. And I do wonder whether the only people that are looking at them are the people that are contributing to them. I don't know. So I'm still quite lukewarm on them. I like the idea of it, but I'm not convinced about the way that it's been rolled out yet. I don't know. When I talk to any of my clients, I don't know if it's the same with yours. I don't see them saying, "Oh, I read this thing on a collaborative article," or "Can we contribute to this collaborative article?" I don't think they're kind of quite punched through yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's very much early days, but what I am seeing is more and more of those kind of an article has been created around this topic appearing in the feed. And what I wonder, my theory around this is that you and I both have creator mode activated, which would make us more naturally inclined to contribute content to something like that. So I wonder if those articles are sort of being presented to creators at the moment rather than the broader population of LinkedIn users until they've got value in there. Just had a comment in from John. Yeah, I agree at the moment, John. But that's kind of how I feel about almost every new feature when it comes out. And I would say 99% of the time I'm right, and they die a death. But I do wonder if it's a case of trying to source as many contributions as possible before they are really broadly available. So I'm holding back on judgment at the moment. I have seen contributions that are really the opposite of thought leadership in the ones that I've contributed to as well, where people are just adding complete nonsense because it's a platform to put some stuff out on, right? But I think maybe in a couple of months' time, we'll have a true idea of whether or not this stuff is going to fly. It feels a bit messy still at the moment, I'd agree. We've just had a comment in from Joe as well. Interesting, yeah. So it's not, you haven't seen any notifications for things that we've contributed to those articles. Yeah, that's interesting. I think
I haven't done any for a while, I have to confess. So I had an initial flurry at it.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder. I wonder if anybody's watching that's not using creator mode on their profile at the moment, it would be interesting to see if you're seeing those updates as well. So I think both, I know John is in creator mode, and I would imagine Joe's probably in creator mode as well on her profile. But if you're not using creator mode, are you seeing these alerts about collaborative articles at the moment? Let us know in the comments, please. So that was the first kind of aspect of AI that I think there's been a lot of noise around. I think one of the things that a lot of people have missed, which is really interesting, and I have to admit I haven't done anything with this yet, but I fully intend to, is that LinkedIn has actually made available through its LinkedIn Learning platform a whole load of training courses on artificial intelligence, and they're free for all LinkedIn users to use until the middle of June. So whilst there is a lot of noise out there and it's very hard to distinguish, the true value from all of the hype, etc., I think I'm going to explore some of those training courses to see if it helps me to distill a bit more of what I think could be useful there. Have you seen that stuff come through?
I didn't know that. No, that was new to me actually. So yeah, I mean, LinkedIn Learning, for those that don't have access to it or haven't used it before, you have to pay for it separately, or you get it bundled with Sales Navigator on the basic level. So I've got access to it anyway, but I didn't realize that they were doing that. So that's quite a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're doing that for everybody. Yeah. Apparently, all LinkedIn users, irrespective of whether or not you're paying, until the middle of June. So definitely worth checking that out. And then, if John's still watching, I know John's going to love this one. There's the kind of slightly disconcerting use of AI that's been introduced by LinkedIn, which is recommended personalized about summaries or about sections on your profiles. And I am very, very wary of this because I worry that too many people will see that and just go, yeah, that looks good enough to me. And that we could end up with a complete absence of distinguishability, personalization. We have a dog on the line.
Yeah. She's got through her pate Kong, Dan, so anything can happen now.
It's all up for fun and games. But yeah, so these kind of the ability to kind of generate this automatically recommended personalized LinkedIn summaries. I think there's a no small amount of caution for me on that one. I think people will take the easiest route when they see that stuff come through, rather than actually thinking about it and optimizing it. I've not seen it personally yet, John, but I think when it does come through, I will test it. I would really hope that when you get the recommendation generated that you can actually then go in and edit it and optimize it rather than just having to accept what the machine has said.
Yeah, you'll be able to do that, I'm sure.
Yeah, you'd hope. And actually, that is probably the way I'm most likely to utilize tools like ChatGPT in my own work at the moment. Use it as a kind of a starting point, and then sub-edit it and adapt it to make it increasingly relevant. Those were the kind of the three elements of artificial intelligence that I thought were interesting. The next area that there's been quite a bit of movement around is newsletters. Now, again, cards on the table, I am very much not on the newsletter gravy train yet, because as I suspected at the outset of my experiments, I realize there's a lot more work involved in building an audience for a newsletter than perhaps the average user is likely to want to invest their time in.
So what are the updates on the newsletters? Remind people because they've been around for a while, but what's new?
So it mainly it's around visibility and increasing visibility of it. So you can now they're featured if you have them. They're featured on your profile, so you can showcase them more prominently. There are now shareable subscription links to the newsletter, so you can pop that out through other channels and bring people directly in to subscribe to the newsletter. They are being made more visible in native LinkedIn search. So when people are looking for things on the platform, increasingly they are seeing newsletter content come back in those search results, which they weren't initially. And they are also being given a whole load of SEO options as well, so that discoverability off the platform is going to increase. So they're clearly investing a lot of time, a lot of effort in trying to make these really valuable content vehicles, but nonetheless it's still quite a commitment and a resource to be able to actually build that base of users and the content to then sustain it beyond that. The third element of the new kind of things that you can do is one that I was initially skeptical about, but actually have come to find really valuable, and that is scheduling.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite of the new. I mean, it's not actually that new a feature, is it? But I think a lot of us have only got it since the new year. So I think scheduling is genuinely helpful. It's one of those. Why didn't they do it earlier? Type of releases.
Yeah, and I think what they've done this quarter is they've introduced different formats that can now be scheduled. So articles, for example, can now be scheduled instead of posted at the time. There are still things that you can't pre-schedule, but I think scheduling for me is really useful as an ad hoc content creator who wants to make sure that there are things coming out. I might kind of create in bursts and then schedule things, and then just knowing that that's all set up to go is really helpful. But just coming back to the newsletter here, Joe's chipped in. So started newsletter once a week, but had to drop to every 2 weeks because it took up more time than I expected. Yeah, that's not a surprise. And you're quite the prolific content creator as well, Joe. So if you're saying it's time consuming,
well, as I said to
where?
When I was on Joe's Chess and Chat thing a couple of weeks ago, where he plays chess with somebody and tries to talk about marketing. God, the most difficult thing I've ever done, I think. But anyway, we were talking about being prolific on social networks, and Joe is he's not just prolific on LinkedIn; he uses all of the others as well. So he puts out a lot of stuff. I think with newsletters, for me, a lot of the play from LinkedIn seemed to be about making it a justification for the article platform, because essentially they are syndicated articles, and articles have pretty much gone out of favor. People just weren't reading them, people weren't creating them. I think it's really a way of sort of re-energizing articles. And I don't do newsletters, and I don't do many articles. I did do one a week or so ago on viral hits. It must have taken me a good half a day, if not more, to write the article. So they do take a lot of time, but it's done quite well in terms of reads and stuff. And so I think they do, like newsletters, they do quite well off the platform. So maybe it's making me think about doing newsletters. Don't know.
Well, I think to add to that on your your article, that was a kind of a research piece as well, wasn't it? You were looking at a whole
Yes,
load of
yeah,
background
it's not
stuff. It
just
wasn't
banging
just
out
the
some
writing of
thoughts.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
I
I
think
think if you're going to do those, you've got to actually, it's like that old cliche of adding value, isn't it? There's no point in just doing an article with your perspectives about, how you feel about managing other people or something like that. There's so many materials out already on that, and you can actually get that message across more effectively through posts. So if you're going to do an article or a newsletter, you've got to think, why is somebody going to want to tune into this and have a look at this? It's got to be in depth. And it's got to be better than the last one that's gone out on this particular piece. So that kind of skyscraper thing, actually, that's something that Joe talks about. So you've got to put the effort in, and if you're not doing them very regularly, that's fine. And they do have a long shelf life. I did an article. It's about a year ago now, actually. But the one I just did a stats roundup on LinkedIn, and and I don't usually get this, but it got thousands of views as an article. And interestingly, most of those had come through SEO, not through the post. So I think some of these things are worth looking at.
Yeah, well, it's good then that the same kind of SEO options, I guess, are being implemented in newsletters as well now, or have been over the course of this quarter. John, big fat, the Friday shout outs from John. Interesting. Good. I'm really interested to know, John, whether or not you see any change in the performance of those from having done them natively to scheduling them. But that's perhaps, I don't know if you've looked into that or if that's something that will come over time. But John's also said, sponsored personal posts in the feed. Yeah, I can imagine anybody that's willing to put some money behind some advertising will probably to do that.
That's interesting. From a client perspective, I've wanted to do this for a while. So if you've wanted to boost, like LinkedIn introduced an easy way of doing promotional posts a while ago, where it was doing boosts for events or for posts from a company. But if you're doing a lot of brand communication focused around an executive, just sharing the executive's views through a company post doesn't really work that well. So, I'm actually quite intrigued to try that out, to be honest. I can see how people might get annoyed by it, but I've wanted to do it for clients for a while. So let's see how that comes.
Yeah, I think if it's to your point about articles, if it's valuable and it's targeted at the right kind of people, then I could see there's a lot of potential in that. It's when it's kind of generic business advice from a business consultant that wants to get up to 1 million followers as quickly as possible, perhaps less so. But yeah, so
John, should we wrap up the features, Dan? Because I think we wanted to talk about something else soon. I'm just wondering whether it's worth just listing some of the other things we've noticed, see whether anybody sort of put thoughts on those. I mean, we've seen some updates to company pages and LinkedIn layout changes, which you covered a couple of weeks ago, or it might have been last week, I can't remember now. But there's some sort of superficial UX changes being rolled out on LinkedIn, which people are noticing. Is there anything else
they make absolutely no difference either, from what I can see, unless it's for accessibility, because it's bigger icons. So that's the only kind of thing that I can see driving that. Auto captions as well, sort of widely available now. That's been a really big win from an accessibility standpoint. Only issue with that is I've noticed the auto captions, if you've got burnt in subtitles, you need to make sure that you don't go for auto captions as well, because they obscure each other. So there's been quite a lot going on, quite a lot of it useful, some of it sit on the fence. Now, the third and final thing that we wanted to talk about today is something that I think can be quite contentious at certain times, and that is LinkedIn's social selling index. Now, for anybody watching that doesn't know what the social selling index is, it's basically LinkedIn judging every single user of the platform across a variety of criteria, and the logic behind it is LinkedIn wants to score and encourage certain kind of behaviors on the platform, and it gives you a score out of 70. If you don't know where to find it or what the social selling index looks like, I am going to, oh, hang on a minute. Here we go. Show this one. So, oh, that's really helpful, isn't it? It's obscured in the top corner. This is a note for Restream. Please let me change where I'm going to put the QR code
We
on
didn't
the
realise
screen.
that
So I'll
earlier, did
take
we?
that off because that's completely useless.
You can put
But
it as an image
basically,
into the notes when we finish up, Dan. So
yeah,
that's the way of doing it.
yes. Yeah, so we'll work around the limitations of the platform, but essentially there are four categories, and broadly speaking, the things that LinkedIn is kind of measuring you on are, how well optimized is your profile? Are you actively trying to find interesting people to follow and connect with?
Mm-hmm.
Are you regularly contributing to the platform, whether that's through content, conversations with other users? And are you nurturing relationships over time? So that's broadly speaking what the social selling index is assessing you on. And the reason why LinkedIn wants you to behave like that is because it increases the kind of stickability of the platform, keeps more people on it, more people engaged on it. But from a personal perspective, it helps you to build your credibility. It helps you to develop a stronger network, and ultimately creates more opportunities for you.
And it gives you
On the
it gives you a
platform.
benchmark, isn't it? I mean, when we've done trading stuff, and I know you've had the same thing, Dan, people quite like it because certain types of people quite like it because it gives them a number from 1 to 100, and they go, I'm on 60, I want to get to 70, and they can have a bit of an internal competition and stuff like that. So people do quite like it. I think the problem is that when you've used it for some time, you start to see the problems with it, don't you? I mean, you and I have talked about this in the past. There are lots of things that neither of us like about social selling index. It's quite erratic for a start. Your numbers sort of seems to go up and down for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And there's some things that seem to contribute to it that maybe shouldn't. So if you suddenly start using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, it would appear that your social selling index increases.
Allegedly, anecdotally.
We can never really test it. So I think it's quite unreliable to. I wouldn't bet my life on it. Put it that way. It's not something I think is particularly reliable to use across businesses. It's a useful guide, really, apart from anything else. The other one I just wanted to touch on is this misapprehension that has been and this rumor that's been going around that LinkedIn higher social selling index will increase the reach of your posts. So
interesting.
It's a piece of research that Richard van der Blom put out. I think he first said this a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Somebody will correct me. And saying that if you have higher than 70, I think the number is, I might have got this wrong, but higher than 70, it means that you get an extra 20% boost. And I just can't see how you can prove that. It might be true, but I've seen no evidence for it whatsoever, and I think it's unprovable. So if you see things like that, I think, big pinch of salt. But I don't know what your take is, Dan, on those things. I've got my kind of anti-SSI stuff out of the way now. I feel much better for it.
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, I'm with you. I think the SSI is probably most useful when you're just starting out using LinkedIn with more intent.
Yeah.
Because it shows you relatively quickly how you've improved. But I think you get to a threshold with it where it's very difficult to kind of see things growing beyond that. I personally speaking, in my own use of LinkedIn, I'm not an active networker. I don't actively look to grow my network.
Yeah.
So according to the social selling index, I'm not doing things as well as I should be.
Yeah.
However, I am getting everything that I need out of the platform. So for my use case, I don't need a higher SSI score because I'm getting everything that I need as is.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a danger that you over-index on the index, as it were. And I do know that sales teams in the past have KPI'd their teams to get the highest possible social selling index. And I think there is a risk that encourages too much of the wrong kind of behavior. Although the intention is obviously to encourage the right behavior. People double down on things.
What you mean, as in people then start trying to get as many connections just to boost the score that records connections?
Yeah. So you can be seen to be growing your network.
Yeah.
Rather than focusing on the quality of people in your network. So, yeah, I've got reservations, to say the least. Yeah, I think.
Cool, you're going to split the room with that one, John.
Yeah, I think you're right on the gamification front. Yeah, that competitive spirit kicks in, but there's certainly a point at which it becomes academic. How far it can go. We're question here from Joe from Sean. How do you do that? Filtering the notifications. Well, actually, Phil, do you want to call up your LinkedIn and you can show where the different notification filters are on? We can do this live for Sean.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question, but hang on a minute. I've just got to.
So basically, I think Sean wants to see how you can filter your notifications to see different kinds of notifications.
I don't think I've got that on, actually.
Oh, haven't you?
No, I haven't got that on.
Sad times for you. Okay, well, I will do that. Bear with me 1 second. You can keep the people warm.
I'm not precious enough to LinkedIn for them to give me all the new features at once. They like to sort of hand them out to me as little sweets just to keep me interested.
Well, my LinkedIn is not playing the game at the moment. Bear with me 1 second whilst I do this.
Joe's just replied, it's a new feature, and they're just testing it out. Like always, you get these things after a while. So we should answer that. But yeah, just to wrap up on SSI, I think we're probably nearly done on that, Dan, aren't we? Yeah,
I think so.
Use it to start out. Take it with a pinch of salt. Give yourself a target, but don't get too upset if your SSI doesn't go up. I think that's probably the summary on it.
Yeah, to use your phrase, do not bet the house on it.
Yeah.
There are more important things like, the objectives that you've got for being on the platform anyway, which in an ideal world will not be getting more popular, getting more followers. It will be actually something more tangibly related to what you need to achieve as a business. But yeah, as Joe says, it's being rolled out. People will see it in the fullness of time.
Have you managed to get your notifications, or have you?
I can show. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, and Joe's reminding us that she did a little video on this, which
shameless plugging there, Joe. So there you go. You can see that you can filter here. So all notifications on my posts, notifications that are specific mentions of me here. So it's just a subtle difference to the way that has worked in the past that allows you to be a bit more focused with your time on the platform, which can only be a good thing rather than getting completely distracted.
We'll stick. Oh, there you go. The link is there for everybody to have a look at Joe's.
Yeah. Joe, you are welcome to add that into the comments afterwards as well if you want to.
Cool. I think we're just about our time down. In fact, we're over our time. We try and do this in 30 minutes or less, don't we? So I think we've had some amazing comments from the group, which is probably given us a bit more to chat about.
It has. Maybe it's because it's the end of season finale. So what cliffhangers can we take into the next season?
Let's get all the LinkedIn stuff now before we go and eat loads of chocolate. So,
but in all seriousness, Phil and I are going to take a break for the next couple of weeks and back after Easter to continue this. We've really enjoyed getting to grips with the ShedHeads live and this experience. So we hope that everybody has a lovely Easter. I think I know what's coming here. I don't know why. I don't know why he's doing this. But Phil's
just testing your professional LinkedIn live skills, Dan.
Thank you. Okay.
Your distraction.
I failed at the hurdle.
When I come down to see your new kitchen, I'll be dressed like this for you.
I may or may not let you in. So we're back in a couple of weeks' time. We're going to shift, I think, permanently, Phil, to this slot at 12:30 rather than the earlier slot
something
we
around
were
the
running.
lunchtime. We'll see.
But in the meantime, from Phil, his hairpiece, and from me, have a lovely Easter break, and we will catch up with you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.